Hey everyone, this is WobblyWallaby. Today I'm going to discuss why Inferno Armor, or Ronin, is so popular these days in PvE and why so many people consider him S tier. Previously, I had done a tier list and put Inferno Armor at B tier. Many people mentioned that they use this class and it really should be S tier. Also, on the unofficial Ragnarok mobile community Discord channel, I saw lots of posts where people say that Inferno Armor can out DPS Rathgricy, and some have switched over to it. That definitely got my attention since I thought Rathgricy was OP as hell. In this video, I'll analyze the Inferno Armor build and explain why I think this really is S tier. Also, fantastic news, for this video I have codes to give away. I have 10 C, 5 global, and 5 EU codes. In the comment section, let me know if the White Star Airship or Panape Secret Realm made you switch to a different class. If so, which ones? Include your Discord ID and which server you play on, such as C, Global, or EU, and the winners will get their codes December 31st, 2023. When Inferno Armor got re-released in August 2023, they got heavily buffed. Here were all the buffs from the August 22nd patch notes. Some significant changes I wanted to bring up is Slashlight dealing damage over 3 seconds. That ends up dealing better damage against instance bosses since they have damage caps for huge hits, so being able to deal damage over time is actually better. Next, Inferno Armor giving you 15 second skill damage increase is huge. Next, 5-way giving 15% physical magic attack, a bump from 5% is quite huge. Also, the 5-way training increase in attribute bonuses from 2.5% to 5%. Next, the cooldown reduction of Slashlight from 2 to 1.5 seconds was big too. These buffs were definitely needed and would revive an underused class in PvE. Next is something very unfair for Inferno Armor that I wanted to bring up in more detail. For damage scaling, the unfairness of Inferno Armor really comes with Slashlight using magic attack as part of his damage formula and then using Sink or Swim. If you have lots of magic defense, then Sink or Swim is going to boost your magic attack like crazy. The great thing about Sink or Swim is you can cast it with M.Def gear first and then switch for tons of damage. I found this great post from Tsuchi, #lowboard, who shared his M.Def build. He has 2 sets that he saves to his Yimmers. I also had followed his gear overview when building my own Inferno Armor, so a big thanks to him for sharing this to the community. I'll put a link to his Discord post in the description if you want to thank him as well. So how broken is this M.Def switching? Well, I tried my best to copy his M.Def gear with what I had. For example, if I'm just using my DPS gear, I have 4,981 magic defense and 14,000 magic attack. When I cast Prepare for Elite that has Sink or Swim in it, it goes down to 2,080 magic defense and I have 31,000 magic attack. Next, I have my magic defense build. I have 9,461 magic defense and 12,000 magic attack. I cast Prepare for Elite. Now I have 3,937 magic defense and 42,000 magic attack. Then I use Yimmers to switch back to my DPS gear, and yes, you can do this in instances. Now I have 1,878 magic defense and 45,000 magic attack. This is about a 15,000 magic attack increase from before, which is quite huge. Even in the future, if they do nerf the Yimmer switch, you can still use the item bar, but it's definitely less optimal. Next, before I show my build, I'll quickly show you my run in Legend Museum. I first begin in my M.Def build, and I'll show you my gear quickly again. I call Spirit, then Prepare for Elite, then Yimmer switch to my PvE build. I cast Inferno Armor, then Magnum Break, then start to attack the dragon. The numbers are definitely great, it is hitting hard. Also, because the damage is spread over 3 seconds, it won't hit the damage cap, so over the 3 seconds the damage is really high. He has survivability, but it takes more effort than Rathgricy. You have to pre-cast before you think you'll die, which I'm not used to. Also, you have to cast Magnum Break again every 10 seconds, and if the fight lasts long, you have to do Sink or Swim again. It definitely takes more work compared to Rathgricy, which feels more relaxing to play. In the end, we double KO each other. That was probably the fastest I've ever soloed the Legend Dragon with any class, so I was impressed. Here's the gear that I was using for that run. I use Dragonbone Shield with the 18% PDI increase random attribute. I use the Alice Star card for dealing damage to MVPs. Next is the Cursed Armor. I use this for the ignore defense since my Moral Enchant luck is pretty bad on this account. I have the damage dealt to large monsters plus 20% random attribute. For card I use the Poitata Star card for damage to non-demi-human monsters. Next for garment I use the Leader's Pauldron for the ignore defense and skill damage. I have the Golden Flame King card for MVP damage. Next for footgear, I use the Dragon Slayer War Boots for the penetration percentage and attack percentage. You can use boots that give you more physical and magic attack percentage as an alternative. For card I use the Flute Player Star card. For accessories I use the Heart of Molten Fire with the 12% fire attack random attribute. For card I use the Scarecrow card for dealing more damage to this dragon. For my next accessory, it's another Molten Fire accessory with the 12% fire attack random attribute. Next for weapon I use the Black Flame Sword, which adds a ton of damage to Slash Light. I unfortunately couldn't get any good morale enchants for this weapon. I use the Drake Star card and Menorah Star card for dealing with large monsters. Next for headwear, I use the Homestead of Snowy Owl to deal extra damage using fire against the undead dragon. Next for face I use Winter Crown for the skill damage. Next for mouth I use the +6 Ocean's Attachment for damaged MVPs. Next for back I use the Goodwill Gift Box for damaged MVPs. And for tail I use the It's Too Late for the skill damage. Next, this is what I use for shadow equipment. It gives me some extra ignore defense, M.Def, skill damage, and physical and magic attack. Next for Orko Mirror I use the +10 Bill for MVP damage. I also use the +10 Cardo for more M.Def. Sometimes it's too hectic for me to switch to my M.Def Yimmers build, so I have to do Sink or Swim with my current build, so that's why I like having Cardo here. Deathcat armor is fine if you want more stun or silence resist. Next for Ancient Relic, I use the Lord of Vayne for the penetration, M.Def, and elemental counter coefficient. Next, here's my M.Def switchgear. I use All Souls Return for the 36% M.Def random attribute. I use the Tomb Zombie card for more M.Def. Next I used Other Shore Patrol for the 15% M.Def and then the 24% M.Def random attribute. For card I used the Rock Spirit Turtle for the M.Def. Next I used Mithril Magic Manteau for the M.Def. Next I used Void Crystal for the 12% M.Def random attribute. For both accessories I used the Queef card for M.Def. Next I have a Diamond Earring with the 12% M.Def random attribute. Next for weapon, I use a double-socketed weapon and put the Sting Star card for the M.Def. You can use the Green Steel Pike for more M.Def, but I couldn't find an appropriate one on the exchange. Next I use the Gloomy Witch Headwear and the Gibbet card for M.Def. Next I use the Nightmare Ghost Phase for M.Def. Next I use the Rock'n'Roll Cactus for the reduced skill delay. And I use the Panel Guardian for the reduced skill delay. Next for shadow equipment, I had to remove my garments since the Mithril Magic Manteau isn't ancient equipment, so they cannot coexist. Next are my attributes and stats. This is after doing the M.Def switch and then going to my DPS build. For attributes, I invest in Dex since I want 500 hit. If you do not have this, you'll constantly be missing against the PSR dragon. This was something that's new to me since Rathgricy has a lot of hit already, but for Inferno Armor, you definitely need Dex to be able to hit the dragon. Then I max Vit, then balance the Strength and Int. For stats I have 28,000 attack and 44,000 magic attack. I have 73% penetration, 49.5% skill damage increase, 160.2% damage, 75.1% physical damage increase, 197.1% ignore defense, and have 123% fire damage increase. Next is Adventure Handbook. I have 3,207 attack and 2,592 magic attack. I put my attack deposits to 70% to keep it consistent with my past videos. Inferno Armor would definitely scale if I had put in all my headwear. The ability to damage scale makes this class like Inferno Armor, Rathgricy, and Rune Master very good late game. Next here are my advanced runes. Here's my overall orientation. First is my Berserk Breath rune. Slashlight benefits from this rune, so definitely go for a good first line. And if you lack hit, the third line being high is great too. Next is the Etched Mark rune, which can increase your damage of Slashlight due to deep cut. Next is Weapon Blocking Ruin, which can add some great survivability. A high first line is good, you don't need the second line. Next is Death Cage Star Ruin. A high second line is great for PvE, you don't need the third line for PvE. Next, Darkness Awakening Star Ruin. You ideally have a high first line. Next is the Anger Reflex Ruin. You'd ideally have the third line and a good second line. I think a good thing about Inferno Armor is you don't need to have a ton of second or third line ruins. When you compare this with Rathgricy, this is definitely a more ruin friendly option. Next are skills. Here are my flame skills. Next here are my Warrior of Wildfire skills. Status Vulnerability is great against mobs where your burning effect will give you great damage. If you look at Slashlight, it gives a 100% chance to burn enemies, which is great against mobs. Next for Inferno Armor, just max out all the points. Next for Prepare for Elite, I have Endure, Call Spirits, HPR Light, Overthrust, Sword Parry, and Sink or Swim. I don't put Hallucination Walk because I do not want that speed debuff, especially if I want to dodge some AoE. Next for my manual bar, I have Magnum Break, Prepare for Elite, Last Stand, Inferno Armor, Warrior of Wildfire's Rage, and Super Spring Flashing Slash. Next for auto, I just have Slash Light. Next are my conclusions. While I certainly won't switch from Rathgricy to Inferno Armor, I can certainly see why people would do that. If you have high deposits, great M.Def switchgear, and already have a team of Rathgricys, then having a class that can burst down bosses is fantastic. I personally prefer the more chill playstyle of Rathgricy. I like that you don't have to time your anti-death and you can convert to any element. I also think that her AoE is better against mobs in Oracle Dungeon or White Star Airship. For semi-free to play, if you don't have all the Rathgricy ruins and happen to have Inferno Armor, this is a great alternative. For people that are more pay to win, it's definitely really fun to mount bosses. Even at 70%, it out DPS my Rathgricy when dealing with the Legend Dragon. When it comes to White Star Airship, being able to melt bosses is really important. So I definitely retract my comment about Inferno Armor being B tier, it's definitely S tier. Thanks to everyone for bringing that to my attention. Inferno Armor's popularity is undoubtedly boosted with Panape's Secret Realm and White Star Airship, and I'm glad that these classes are being more meta in the game. It would definitely be boring if everyone just went Rathgricy. If you don't have this class, hopefully the devs will bring this back in the future, and this is definitely a must buy from me. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Here's a video that I would recommend, and if you want more tier lists, check out this playlist over here.